Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of Policy, Finance and Development Committee of Oakham Borough Council, being held on Tuesday, 29th of June at 7 p.m. My name is Ingrid Lee. I'm the chair for this meeting. I have to read a statement before the meeting commences. In accordance with the openness of local bodies regulations, this meeting is being live streamed and may otherwise be recorded, filmed, or communicated on other media platforms. The recording of this meeting will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel shortly after the meeting. Both councillors and officers attendant are reminded to make full use and to speak clearly into the microphones available at all times. A reminder that mobile phones should be turned off or put on silent mode. Those present at the meeting should refrain from making or taking telephone calls. A polite reminder to those members of the public in attendance and welcome to the meeting that you must not act in a disorderly or disruptive manner or otherwise interfere with the committee's public conduct of its business. Before we get to the agenda, we're missing a vice chair, so can I have a nomination to the vice chair?
Yes, Councillor Bolton.
Thank you, Councillor Boyce. Second, Councillor Kevin Lloyd. Is every members happy with that large affirmation? Okay, so Councillor Bolton, you'd like to come and take the vice chair seat. Before the meeting starts, we've had the news that former councillor Dick Adams decided that passed away this week. Councillor Bolton wants to say a few words from the councillor Dick Adams.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Dick Adams sadly passed away at the weekend after a long illness. His wife, Rosemary, was not here this evening because of that. Dick represents a central ward in the old constitution with myself and Councillor Kavanagh for a number of years. Our thoughts are still on with Rosemary and his family. It's very sad. Could I ask for a minute silence, please, for former Councillor Dick Adams.
Thank you. Moving on to the agenda. Item 1, apologies and absence.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies this evening from Councillor Bentley, Councillor Robert Eaton, Councillor Gamble, and Councillor Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Appointment of substitutes, item 2.
No substitutes, Chair.
Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Can't see any. Item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. Moved. And Councillor Hall is moving those minutes. Seconded. Councillor Boyce. We will accept those minutes to our information. Thank you. Those minutes, and I will sign those. Actions. Item 5, action list arising from the previous meeting. There are no actions arising from the previous meeting. So we move on to item 6, petitions and deputations. Item 6A, keep car parking and every Brixton free to support businesses in your local community. I understand that there's a spokesman on behalf of the petitioners here. Mr. Salmon, would you like to come to the microphone and address the meeting for 5 minutes, please?
I did ask for an extension on 5 minutes long, due to the importance of the meeting. I sent that through this morning to David, along with the notes that I was going to give you on whether that be considered favourably.
Okay, if you'd like to start from 6 and go out of time on this, because I'm conscious that we need to make sure this map has a space and people able to question you as well.
It runs to 7.5 minutes.
And how it is starting.
Thank you. We've only been allocated 5 minutes for the issues, which is very important to both the residents and businesses, and it's unrealistic as 20 minutes free parking. I apologise if it takes more than 5 minutes, and therefore we appreciate any responses to be forwarded at the end. It's important to highlight that we only had 1 month to get the public opinion, and as you can see from the numbers of people that have signed the petition in this time, the proof of strong feeling in the community. Basis for the petition: penalising business and residents after a very difficult year. Businesses struggling and still in potential lockdown. Some have only just reopened. Residents will go elsewhere, i.e. possible free parking, and what other options have Open Weeks been looked at to dismiss the potential break-even, or are you looking at making this a revenue stream? Questions. On the meeting of the 6th of July 2017, item G confirms that better enforcement was needed in the car parks as sporadic across the car parks. What evidence is there that this has been done and what are the results? Meeting on the 5th of December 2017, what evidence does Open Weeks have to determine the impact on the local businesses and the viability of the town centres, as they advise that this will be undertaken in those minutes? In the budget meeting, 18th of the 2nd, 2021, it states that item 3.8, the aim of the authority is to provide an improved levels of service whilst reducing costs. This is recognised in the savings already allocated. How can this be the case? The table gives the savings which are mostly transferred to the residents, especially to the community which has been hard with COVID-19, reduced working hours and or redundancy, shop closures, reduced facilities within the districts, i.e. leisure centres, increased staff and waste charging, introduced car parking charges, refuse collection, moving to fortnightly. How are these improved levels of service? Budget meeting, 18th of the 2nd, 2021, 3.9. The address of the budget deficit. 2 key items of the policy were agreed to be delivered: car park charging and refuse collection moving to fortnightly. Vermin control, question mark. So these 2 items have already been agreed in some form or another. So what is the consultation period for those? Or is this just another tick box? It makes no sense having garden waste collection over 12 months. October to March cannot be productive. There are other employees and lorries being used. Can't do very little during these months. Can these costs not be effectively impacted in the carbon footprint? Reduce the costs and reduce the collection over the winter months. We understand that one option is number plate recognition. Most drivers pay for the amount they expect to use. This gives the opportunity for somebody else to use the surplus ticket, or with number plate recognition, this cannot be done. Or are Open Weeks looking at getting double payments in these cases, which cannot be right, especially when this is a cost neutral exercise. With space has been paid for a certain amount of time, the ticket should be valid for whoever's parked in that space, whichever car is displaying the ticket. This proves that the option is just to create profit regardless of covering costs. What feasibility study has been taking place regarding the option, other than how much profit the council is hoping to make? Business require footfall to survive in this difficult time, and they're looking to charge for car parking on ongoing by the council. If people decide to go elsewhere and park for free, how will businesses be able to afford their business rates, let alone make some sort of living? In reality, it will have an opposite effect of what you're trying to achieve. Car parks are a service, like parks are a service. Are you going to start charging to enter parks? Electric charging units. I understand that a number of these have been installed in car parks at what costs. I do not imagine anyone visiting Oakley Woodstead, a shopping area, is ever like a day out on Frost Park, and even visiting within the range of their own home. What is the method to determine things that are necessary at the point, or is this a government scheme which is subsidised? If so, how will it be subsidised for? At what cost will Oakley Woodstead be contributing, if anything? What is the research that's undertaken to indicate what benefit would serve to the community? What's the consultation process for this? Conclusion. Based on the responses, there was a very strong feeling amongst residents and businesses that Oakley and Woodstead will become a ghost town. If the car park charges are implemented, businesses will close, residents will go elsewhere where there is free parking to enjoy. The shocking experience, reading between the lines, it would seem that Oakley and Woodstead want to cut the costs at the same time as somehow provide a better service by transferring the cost implications to the residents, implying it was because of cutting costs that the fact was suggested in 2017 minutes. What's happening to the money saved by furlough? Concerning in regards to payouts of staff and non-disclosure payments, it appears that the legal costs far outweigh the original payouts. Once the petition took off, ironic that Elizabeth then sent a newsletter out detailing the issue. Residents are now asking that the Oakley and Woodstead Borough Council are transparent in their undertakings, fit for purpose, and able to run services which are valued for money. In particular, when a car park did not seem to be forefront in the election campaign of 2019 and 21. Present government COVID is being blamed now for a decision made in 2017 to implement car park charges. The resources deficit managed to control by Oakley and Woodstead Council, as indicated and stated above. So it appears that nothing has changed since 2017 in this regard. Our feedback has indicated that there are many unhappy residents that have indicated if this had been apparent at the time, they may have voted differently. So again, transparency comes into question. Suggestions. Depending on what Oakley and Woodstead have already looked at, what findings have there been in other areas where it has been implemented? Costs, overhead, impact on footfall and local businesses, etc. What schemes have been introduced? Feedback from businesses and residents. Look at time saving schemes elsewhere. What else is currently running at a loss? Moving of premises. If this had been implemented in 2017, savings would now be available. Looking at alternative revenue streams that are not funded by the residents. In addition, what they've already contributed to, which is what you are trying to do. Partnerships or outsourcing of other authorities and businesses to provide services. Any income from car park is ring-fenced for spending on car parks only. Thank you, that completes my position.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. Thank you for making your remarks. If you'd like to remain there, because the next part of the meeting, members are now about to put specific direct questions to Mr. Salmon and any issues for clarification which he's raised. So if any members would like to have any questions to Mr. Salmon, to say? No? Oh, Mr. Bolt, Council.
I've just set the ball rolling. Thank you for the presentation. There's some good points which we'll take on board. We do already charge for car parking. I've done for a number of years. That was brought in because people were parking in our car parks all day, crashing the bus, going into Leicester, using it as a park and ride facility. That's what it done elsewhere. So the principle of charging the car park has really been established. What we're talking about now is alteration to that scheme, which listen to your comments. The idea of consultation is to put your views forward. That's what we've done this evening, not forcefully. The idea is not to make a profit out of the car parks. It's purely to pay for the cost of the car parks and not keep the car parks. Unless you didn't know, we have to pay an NDR, business rates on the car parks. That money goes mostly back to central government. So there's a to and fro basis there. If we didn't pay an NDR, which I think is about £95,000, be a different story. Unfortunately, we do. The government's changed the tack on how they do things. We used to have a thing called revenue support grant. Well, the government paid the council a certain amount of money each year, depending on their needs, to run the councils. They stopped doing that. And they said councils must produce all the income within the borough, town, wherever it is. And there's no money coming from central government to support the rates. Old word rates, I know, but we've all been there. Okay. So that puts everybody in great difficulty. It's putting the onus, as you say, onto the residents. Now, I don't know about you, but taxes are paid to central government, come down. So I always ask the question, what are they doing with my money? It's not coming back into the borough, it's going somewhere else. So we're in a situation where we have to try and keep things going. Discretionary services is different to mandatory services, and car parks and other things are discretionary service. We have to find some way of paying for those or doing away with them altogether. I mean, not very popular, but we do give a 20% discount to all the charity shops in the borough, their NNDR. 8% mandatory, 20% discretionary. Won't be very popular, but took away 20% for the rates for the charity shops. But these are options we have to look at. We have to look at every single item and see how we can generate enough money to keep the service going, or to make saving elsewhere. And we've made lots of savings in the borough over the last few years. In fact, I wish it'd been put by about a third. So we have made lots of savings. There's lots of this staff working at the council now, looking at lots of other options as well. Other people talk about electric charging points. It's another point that we've raised. That money is central, basically from central government. As part of their flagship schemes to go into electric vehicles. But that just isn't the ball rolling. Other members may want to say things involved, but I just sort of set the scene. Why we find ourselves in this situation. And one of the biggest problems is, of course, that in COVID-19, the government said at the beginning, whatever it costs you to safeguard the borough, we'll reimburse you. Unfortunately, they haven't. They've only given us 71, 72% of the money we spent COVID-19, which equates to about £200,000 short. So that's another problem that we have, which we didn't realise 2 years ago. Never heard of COVID-19 2 years ago. So we're looking at it as rather hard.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. I'm not sure, was there a question, particular question, was that what we were trying to get forward?
Well, it's just a point that I'm trying to raise, that we already charged for car parking over 3 hours. So the petition says, I get any correct. Get to it. That's the first that child car parking full stop. What we really do, so I wasn't sure whether you expected this to be with more charges or just up to 3 hours.
Yes, please, yeah, please, so,
I think what we were looking for, to be honest, was a more generous timeline than the 20 minutes that was supposedly suggested at the starting point, and also the sum of basically a pound an hour did seem rather extravagant when you consider that maybe charge different fee, I believe it is, and it's £1.50. I might also, if I'm allowed to, just also I want to say that other parties, although they're engaged in the reviewing or wanting sites into the social media, I haven't actually come up with any alternatives either. So it's not like they were even willing to engage in a conversation like this. And I appreciate your input and did.
do any other members have a question for Mr. Mr. Lloyd, the Crown's Council?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the comments you made. Again, thank you very much. Comments. Very informative. Can I just ask a question from that? The two things that you referred to is business rates and charging for the phone. Have you done any research on rates for those particular areas that you were talking about?
I haven't done any research on that personally, but obviously it's for the tech genius to work out that if the football team, sorry, my team's out, if the footfall drops, then obviously the shops are going to have to shut. You can't maintain the level to keep places open if the footfall drops and people are really struggling. I know a couple of friends that run shops at the moment. If they're basically saying at the moment they're breaking, unless things improve, then they will have to shut, in which case then obviously it's another shop entity and then you work to business shops.
It's not business rates I'm referring to, it's the rent and shops. The reason I asked that question is because a friend of mine wanted to open a shop in the town centre, trying to negotiate the rent for it. It's so exorbitant, I couldn't believe how much it was. But they decided that this before talked about the what they wanted to do with they wanted to go with elsewhere. Quite a few businesses, but the rents are so exorbitant in the town centre that they couldn't afford it, so they moved somewhere else. And he's now opened a successful. That's why I just asked the question about if you deal with the business rates, which we don't have any control over, that's set license or anything else. So it's, for me, before the pandemic, we had town centre shops closed simply because research with colleagues and I did saying the rents are so high that they couldn't afford it to take the shops on some shops trade because of that. So I just asked the question whether or not we take that on board or we always do some of the shops. Not necessarily because the rent has a serious impact on shops.
Sorry to make that general one. On the footfall, obviously, if the footfall then drops further, obviously they won't afford the rent, they won't afford the business rates, so basically the more shops that are shutting. Walking around Brixton recently, as I have done, just basically wanted to get a good view for myself. There are a lot of shop caps that are empty. South Brixton's like a ghost town at the moment, there's pretty much nothing there. When the high street used to be fairly busy and bustling. Over again, that's the odd shop, but it does seem to be a little bit empty. But the general point is if the footfall does drop below a certain figure, even though they're hot trading water at the moment, if there's an extra cost that then goes in, or you need to go and sit in the car or whatever, if you're paying I think the pound personally is too high, you know, and it's just an extra cost that then goes, you know, it's it. And at the end of the day, like everybody else, you have to balance the books and, you know, make the decisions where you can spend the money.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I just ask, are you aware that, just for that instance, that all local authorities have been told that they have to raise money by other means? If they've got an asset, tell them against it. If you've got an asset, you've got to ensure that it's been, you get value for money. So that's why all landlords and things, all the districts landlords are actually all charging the government. That's raising in some cases. Because they're sweated out. We didn't do that because we wanted to maintain our independence and keep those 3 hours free. But we've got through stages, you're aware, because they're not sweating assets. I can say that will be penalised for it because we get less financial support from central. I don't make sense, because all the local authorities. I've got credit, I've got all the evidence here, substantial. 60% cut the council budget. Very honest. We all have to display the assets, we all have to do something to in fact, borrowing is at a record high. Some councils have to borrow to keep service. That sort of suggests to you that there's an awful lot of that from the local authorities, which in some cases, it's true now that's gone bankrupt. There's over 50 that now, there's 12 more that are actually under the auspices of the Ministry of Ministry, because they're financially not. So, nationally, all local authorities have to inspect the assets to achieve the services that we want. Not necessarily staying where we want free parking for everybody. Still do. We have to take responsibility for the budgets that are given to us. It makes it really vital to go and see. We're not free to make our own decisions in our local authority, which we should be able to, but we still have more external sources that force us to not about to do. I think you need to be aware of that. So make an understanding of where we're going. Two schools facing about all the local authorities in the same position. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, just so members know, and members of the next part of the process is that the corporate assets manager will kindly make a statement. But if Councillor Kaufman, Geoffrey Kaufman would like to, and also if you can keep your contributions concise if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, I hope it will be precise and clear. I had difficulty hearing your presentation, but bits I managed to hear. I think they're very important. You asked very important questions, which I really do believe deserve an answer. A lot of them we have the answers already. Because I couldn't hear clearly enough, I couldn't write down the questions. But I just wondered, would it be possible for the officers to have a list of questions?
I've already sent those over to you. I think it's still this slowly about 20.
Yeah, I do have a copy of the presentation. I can just we will respond to those questions that aren't answered tonight over the next few days directly to the petitioner in writing.
I hope we'll be happy with that because we're all here on a learning exercise. I spent 30 years in this council fighting not to charge for car parking. So I can assure you that every member here is as sad as the people that you're representing like this. But you do deserve answers, and I'm very interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kaufman. Okay, and now we move on to Margaret Klein, who's the corporate assets manager.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Kind, and I'm the Corporate Asset Manager for Oakley and Winston Borough Council. Further to what Councillor Belcher has already mentioned, I'd like to explain a little bit more about the position the Council is in and what has brought us to this point. As Councillor Belcher explained, the provision of car parks is not a statutory duty of the Council, and that means it doesn't have to provide them, but it chooses to do so. However, the operating costs amount to £170,000 a year, as you can see on the screen behind me. I'm not sure whether that is clear or not. Okay, well, I'll explain some of the main figures to you. They relate to the 2019-20 financial year, which is prior to COVID, because that gives us a full year's worth of information. On the left of the chart is the income that we receive, and that is from the charges applied for over 3-hour parking and the money that we receive from fines. It amounts to £37,176 a year. On the right of the chart are the costs incurred. They include approximately £22,000 of the utility bill, which covers the electricity, car park lighting, and also money that we have to pay to Severn Trent for surface water drainage. There's also business rates, which the valuation office sets the level for us, and we pay £93,000 annually across the car parks. The remaining costs cover maintenance and equipment repair, enforcement, things like emptying litter bins, litter picking, grounds maintenance, and other associated staff costs. The total expenditure is £206,722. Minus the income gives a total loss that's currently borne by the council taxpayer of £169,546. The draft car park strategy seeks to address the balance by shifting the burden for the cost of the car parks to the user, meaning that the cost is not borne solely by the council taxpayers, but by those who are actually using the car parks. As Councillor Bolter explained, the principle of paying parking is long established for stays of over 3 hours. That's been in place for a number of years, and what is now being looked at is extending that principle to include charging for short stay parking. The draft strategy went out to public consultation for a period of 6 weeks, and that ended on Sunday the 27th of June just gone. In that time, 2 petitions were received, with just under 6,000 signatures in total, as well as 380 responses received by email and letter. There's been insufficient time between the consultation closing and today's date to properly capture all of the points raised, but there are common themes mentioned. The predominant concern being the detrimental impact charging for parking may have on shops and businesses in the town centres. As highlighted in the strategy document, there are opportunities for working in partnership with local businesses to mitigate this and to offer money-back schemes or discounts in association with traders from the town centres. Displacement parking is referred to in many of the responses, with worries that drivers have used side streets to avoid paying for parking. We've already entered into dialogue with Leicestershire County Council as the highway authority with responsibility for on-street parking to look into these issues and how they might be addressed. In terms of introducing charging for parking at Brox Hill, Parklands Leisure Centre and Brixton Swimming Pool, a wide range of reasons have been put forward as to why these no charges should be implemented, including the detrimental impact on health and well-being, the additional cost of using the facilities on top of gym membership or attendance of classes, and again, all of the responses will be taken into consideration before a final decision is made. Other arguments put forward relate to the proposed 20-minute free short stay bays, the impact of charging on the elderly, taking and collecting children from school, attendance of religious services and events, volunteering and community groups. We understand respondents are concerned about these areas and will endeavour to implement a scheme that is consistent and fair. Where respondents have cited specific local parking problems, we will look closely to see whether there is anything that we can do to address some of these issues. The council has so far resisted the interest shown by a major car park operator in leasing some of the council's car parks. They clearly consider that charging for short stay parking is commercially viable, despite the fact that they would have to take on fixed costs, such as the NNBR, the business rates, and utility costs. In the event the council were to consider such an approach, it would then end up with no control over the level of charging imposed, although of course it would receive a guaranteed income. Once the consultation responses have been fully assessed, a summary will be published on the council's website. We will then review the strategy in the light of the responses received and make any amendments to it. The parking order will result from that and will go out to statutory consultation for a period of 3 weeks. All responses to that consultation will be considered before the final parking order is published and implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Members may directly question Margaret. No? Okay, so Councillor Boyce.
Excuse me, is it possible to put the microphone on? Because it can't be really said. It's working.
You want to hear me a little bit better? Is that better? Is that better? Can you hear me? No. It's dropping out. Just try. Can you close that one? Sorry. I'll walk over there.
It's wonderful, this COVID situation. We get all manner of messages to try and move things about. Okay, my name is John Boyce. I'm the leader of the council. All consultations are difficult. A good consultation is when somebody states what they intend to do, and then you can actually comment on precisely what we intend to do. And it's absolutely clear there will be some changes created by your petition and the feedback we've already had. They may not be changes to principle, but there will be changes certainly to the detail. I was elected 22 years ago, and the issue of weekly bins and car parks were discussed then. I would hope we will retain weekly bins. There is currently a government consultation going on which may change that, but I would hope we, from the borough point of view, will continue to do that. But as for car parks, there's been relentless pressure from government, and certainly in the last 10 years, the assumption that you will charge for the use of your assets has been growing and growing. And as Councillor Bolt mentioned, the income we used to receive from government has simply stopped. And the assumption is that we will charge for car parks. That is not something that any of us take lightly. In many ways, the fact that it's taken 22 years in my term to get to this point is almost something to be celebrated, not to be sad about. Because actually, no other district in the county has held out with free car parks as long. The amount we'll find, but we can argue about that at the next stage. I'll make a few other points, if I may. Discretionary is really complicated because some of the things we do are 60% statutory and 40% discretionary. So the extent you do it, like cleaning the street cleaning, there are certain standards, but we go beyond. So you could theoretically reduce it. we pay for advice and information, we give some money out to community groups. It's not the sort of thing you want to remove. Yet, you're right, we could do it, and I would very much prefer not to. COVID has been mentioned as a problem. COVID, in terms of money, has two major impacts. One, we are getting some money back from government. However, on the next part of this agenda, we're going to look at our finances, and there's a big figure about what's coming back from government. However, we haven't actually received it yet. And that's a problem, because that's the risk. What government said would happen at the beginning is not what's happening now. So we have to take that into account. And the legislative contracts have been significantly affected by COVID because we are effectively trading there, and that trading money doesn't come back to us because it's not been traded. So that's a problem. You raised at one point our building. It's interesting. I wanted to get rid of that building for a long time, but my colleagues have resisted. However, if we had got rid of it in 2017, we would have replaced it. Today, replacing it may not make sense. Not getting rid of the building, but simply replacing it, because the way of working has changed. So that is something which we're probably going to discuss in September once that a significant amount of work is done to understand precisely that point. But we are not simply charging for car parks. There's a massive amount of additional work going on. As I said a moment ago, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we will be looking at that. We may even be allowed a few extra spaces on the very short stay. So we're not open to change. I'll make one point to close about politics. I often, as a leader, meet with the other district leaders, and there is a complete, there is a problem between local and national. What the national government does quite often, it says, you've got an asset charge for. Locally, of course, that has this problem which we've got this evening, and that's not uncommon. The government will often say planning is an obvious one in housing. Build more houses. Well, actually, when it gets down to here, it's building more houses next to ours, and that's something we resist. So there is a problem between national and local. And sometimes people will admit that. I will briefly say a member of Parliament is not one of those that will admit that, because he tends to face three ways at once. He believes in government policy. He believes we shouldn't charge. He is absolutely silent on the fact that Harbour have put their charges up by 50%. So let's get this clear. If we're going to talk politics, then it's not a pleasant game. However, this evening, I am thankful for your coming here. I am thankful for being held to account, because it's important, because it makes you think. It makes you think how I got it right. And there will be changes. So I move that we take into account everything said this evening. There will be a car parking order made. That will include those appropriate changes that have come from this evening, and that will be followed in due course when there will be a further consultation. So can I thank you all for coming, and can I thank you especially for your very clear presentation. And I'm sorry, but I know it may not be the answer you wanted, but at least we are trying to listen, at least on the detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyce. Councillor Boyce has moved.
I have moved it that we take into account the issue.
Do you have a second to that? Thank you, Councillor Bolter. Are members okay with that by general acclamation? Can I move to a vote? Okay, so and that's passed. Thank you very much to members of the public for attending. You can just stay for the rest of the agenda for the next item, or would we return the regional stay for that item? Move on to item 7, provisional financial report. We'll just pause for a minute, 3 minutes, to move around. Okay, so item 7, provisional financial outturn report, just a housekeeping. We have one other point to microphone, so if members want to make a contribution, we'll have to go to Mr. Campbell, table where Mr. Campbell is. Mr. Campbell, please present the report.
Yes, this report is the provisional outturn for the 2020-21 financial year. I'd like to state that this is provisional at this point in time, because the statement of accounts is not due until the 31st of July. So the figures are now provisional. If I take you through to the introduction on paragraph 1.1. So the council initially had a budget of 6.119 million, and then the budget was revised down to 6.019 million. And the council has also incurred quite a lot of additional expenditure due to the COVID situation. Now, this year, through 2020-21, the councils received a total of £1,794,511 in COVID-related grants that could be used to directly offset the additional costs of COVID expenditure. Now, the outturn position at the moment for Q4 is showing an underspend of 296,000. But what I just want to stress is that in that figure is included about £200,000 of income that the council hasn't actually received at this point in time. And have those been submitted? There's no guarantee we're going to actually receive all of it. And the other thing I want to mention is that at Q3, there was an estimation of an overspend of 291,770 pounds. But this is a swing, but quite a swing in the amount from an overspend to an underspend. I'll explain that later in the report. So, in the actual report, in the table 1, the general fund monitoring shows an overspend for customer services of 96 and transformation of £96,708, which was in the report as agency costs and 70k of unachievable staff savings. I just want to emphasise here, a lot of that overspend is due to transformation costs in IT. And IT is just one of these industries that when you have a system put in place, the cost is just not cheap. So you unfortunately, that has incurred additional costs. And the other thing, the other areas of overspends were law and governance and built environment, which each had roughly about 10k overspend. And there also was an underspend in the senior leadership team of £48,000. and also the finance cost centres of about 54,000. And also in the community wellbeing, there was also an underspend of 157,000 pounds. Those are all shown in the table. So also, if I move on to the table 2, COVID-19 income expenditure, that's 2.6. It shows, in summary, what the COVID-related expenditure related to. It was salary and agency staff costs of £503,741, various supplies and services and contractual obligations for 1.137 million, which took the total related expenditure to 1,641,160. But what I'd like to emphasise at this point is that every effort was made to transfer as much cost as possible that related to COVID. Some direct costs were easy to identify, but then there were additional costs, indirect costs, perhaps staff time or other materials, like service materials that may not have been charged across to that expenditure line, which was still subject to review. And then if I go down in table 2, in the income sources, we received COVID-19 emergency funding tranche 1 to 4 in government of £769,886. And there's other grants, including new burdens, which was 479,349. This is like new burdens, it's grants that's issued by the government to help offset the costs of COVID. And then the other one is sales fees and charges support, COVID loss of income, where I've got a figure of 515,753. This is the line where, although that figure's in there and we've claimed the money, there's no guarantee we're going to get all this money because that's subject to audit. So, although we've claimed for it, and the other point is, although we've claimed for that money, we don't get 100% back of the income the council's lost. It's based, I think it works out to about 70 to 71% roughly, because you take off 5% of the income you lost, and then it's 75% of the remainder. So on that table, it shows that COVID grants received was 1,794,511, and there was a couple other related income sources. Fixed tenancy income 2,000, and other income of 27,543. So overall, so far, it's shown that the grants received related to COVID is in excess of 153,051, but again, 200 of that thousand of that grant is we haven't received it yet, and there's no guarantees we're going to receive all that money. So then moving on to paragraph 2.7, this shows the movement between the Q3 forecast for 2021 and the actual provisional forecast for Q4. So the difference is £587,818. So the forecast in Q3, I've got a breakdown of what's the reason why there was an overspend forecast, because at that point in time, council or we didn't know what COVID-related grants we were going to receive. But some of these grants we received at short notice, like for example, there's one grant here on this list, I think it's 160,000. I was notified in May the council's going to receive it. So you can't plan for something you don't know about. So on this list, I've got the differences between the Q3 to Q4 forecast. They've got new burdens grant 58,500, and then I've just listed out some of the larger ones. So you've got new burdens 166,000, additional grant received in May, and we've got a grant for community champions, local authority funding 85,640. And there's various other grants or underspends that occurred in the service. And also as an underspend in the finance in the area of 54,000 and general underspend 22,350 in the council. So that is why there was a movement of 587,817 pounds. And item 3, COVID-related business grants. I just wanted to give everyone a brief update on that. So the council has issued various COVID-related grants throughout the year, but the last 2 that are still in place is one where we've got a restart grant of 1.812 million, which is due to applications end very soon, in June. And then we've also got an additional restrictions grant of 1.646 million, which is a bit wider. So with the difference between the two is the ARG, you don't have to be paying business rates. You could be a bookkeeper or something, but your business is lost income, so you can claim through it. With the restart grant, it's a bit more targeted to what organisations can actually claim for it. And then moving on to item 4, the capital programme for 2021. It's showing the summary of the capital programme. So the general fund, the capital budget was 1.402 million. The actual spending to date, at the point of writing this report, was 862,000. And it may have increased because there's still adjustments being made. The housing revenue accounts, this report is showing a capital budget of 2.186 million, and spent to date was just under 1.6 million, so there was a variance of 588. So overall, the capital programme has been underspent by 1.128 million this financial year at this point in time, but there's still adjustments being made. So, and the other thing going on to item 5, the capital programme for 2020-21-22. I just want to put a note in this report that it's going to be a revised capital programme to be put forward in September, and I just wanted to make members aware of that. There's approved IT capital expenditure, it's going to be included within that, as well as some other adjustments will be included in the September capital budget. And then moving on to item 6, the housing revenue account. This account has made surplus in 2020-21. There's an underspend of 376,000, which has been appropriated in the earmark reserve for repayment of HRA debt. So it's just explain that. With the HRA, we have the houses, the properties which have a value, and councils have had to they borrow to fund the housing programme of repairs and also getting loans with the government. And each council that has a debt, you use some of your HRA income to pay back some of that debt. That's just a brief overview of how the HRA works. And also 6.2 says although the capital programme was spent, it says there's still the fully planned amount of contribution to fund the capital programme, and it continues again in 21-22. So there is still a capital programme for 21-22. So the plan is to go ahead with that, and also you may be repairs that should have taken place in 2021. All efforts will be done to progress those repairs and keep the repairs and maintenance programme going. And then below table 5 is the HRA table expenditure. So it shows a breakdown of HLA costs and budgets, which is broken down into supervision and management, which is staffing, you've got repairs and maintenance, and then you've got the depreciation costs, and then underneath that you have the rental income that's received from the tenants of bills, and then you have the capital charges and appropriations. And it shows what the balance of the HLA and the outturn balance carried forward reserves will be 1.131, and that's what the balance is estimated to be on the HLA reserves. And then I'm going to go on to appendix 1, which is a capital program, which lists out what the actual budgets for the individual schemes and the actual spends to March 2021 and appearances. This at the time of writing the report is still subject to adjustments, because adjustments will be made, but that's why this report is a provisional outturn position. So in summary, with the total HLA on the appendix 1, it shows that the HLA budget is 2.185 million, and expenditure was just under 1.6 million, which shows an underspend of 587,951. And then if we go on to the general fund, it shows that there's a budget of 1.4 million and expenditure of £862,214 and an underspend of £540,000. So overall, the capital programme was underspent last year quite considerably. That's my presentation report. So, Chair, does anyone want to ask any questions at this point?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Councillor Bolter.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, can I just go back to table 1 on page 9? You answered one of the questions about the customer services points to £96,000 over budget, obviously, because of IT problems. Capital financing, is that for the pools or what is that for?
Well, capital, this is a cyclical requirement. So in the capital programme, we have to have something called the marginal revenue provision, which is basically the council has to set aside money to repay back capital. It's like depreciation. So if you've got an asset, it depreciates. So what the council is basically doing is saying, we're borrowing money over, say, 20 years, we have to set aside the sum of money to repay back this debt, and also the cyclical guidelines state we have to set aside a certain amount each year, and that's what the council's doing for the ministry. It's accountancy requirements.
Okay, thank you. On page 11, 6.1. Because of COVID, some of the day-to-day repairs have not been able to be carried out this year, and that's why there's an underspend on the budget. But of course, now we're catching up, those repairs need to be done. I want your assurance to do those repairs, because if you take £376,000 out of the budget, there's only a certain amount of the budget this year, which is allocated to the repairs estimated for this year. So there's a backlog of repairs. So I want your assurance there's enough money there for those repairs. I don't want our tenants to be waiting for repairs to be done, day-to-day repairs to be done, because there's no money to do it.
In answer to that question, Councillor, there is a capital programme for the HRA, which the council endeavour to spend each year. It's about 1.5 million for the repairs and maintenance. And just because we allocated and we underspent to the debt, there is still a programme of repairs going forward, so there will be still catch up. And what tends to happen each year, the HOA capital programme tends to underspend by 200,000. Just because we've got a programme of repairs we spend to the level of the necessary repairs that are required. So that budget won't be short. There'll be enough money in that budget to fund the repairs.
The point I'm trying to make, Mr. Campbell, is the fact that day-to-day repairs are funded by revenue. Major repairs are done by capital. Two distinct different animals. Day-to-day repairs cannot be done through capital, not be done through revenue. If we take £376,000 out of that account, is there enough revenue money to the repairs backlog?
So with the HRA ring fence, so this is all HRA expenditure, so it's all the same pot of money. So you can move money around in the HRA, so there is enough money forward for 21-22 program to fulfil the repairs, and this is probably Asian Forks area, but as far as possible, the program of repairs will still go forward as physically as possible, so repairs can be done.
Well, we'll see how we go this year. I am concerned that there won't be sufficient revenue money to do the repairs that are needed to be done.
I just also answer one thing. Also, the council does have a large reserve as well, so we still have a kit repairs program, and if there was a problem, then we would move money from the reserves to fund the capital program. But as I said before, what has happened, we don't tend to spend the full budget, not for want of trying, it's just that's what's tended to happen over the last few years.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell and Councillor Otter. Councillor Joshi, would you like to come to the microphone?
Say something. Is that okay? Is that working?
I can do it, that's it.
Colleague, thank you for your presentation. I was just a little bit confused. Figures aren't my best. It was just about the grant that's been received for the COVID grant, including the business grants. So I've worked out business grants. We've had 3.45 million, and then you said we had some grants coming in of 1.794. But then you mentioned in table 2 that that's not fully, it's not fully committed, it's only 70% that we received, but it's contradictory to what was just said.
Can I answer that question?
Sure.
Okay, I might not have made it clear. So the grants we pay out to businesses, we have to account for those separately. So although they're coming into the council, what we're basically are agents of the government paying that money.
Yeah.
So although they come into the council, I have to keep those separately. So they don't really form part of the budget. Then you've got the other grants that I've got in this report, the 1.7 million, which is what the government gives us to offset our COVID-related expenditure. That does come into the council, that does go into the council's account. So it's basically I have to treat two things separately. Grants to businesses, although it's on the council's books, but it's a separate thing.
I get that completely. So do we know how much of the business grants paid out so far? And what happens to the surplus of that?
Right, so with the business grants paid out, I'll answer the question with surplus. If we don't spend all that business grant, we have to return that back to the government. So that's been the case in some of the earlier grants, where if people don't claim, or businesses don't claim, the government audits what we've paid out, just make sure we've done it the correct way. There's strict rules about what you can actually pay out if you're qualified, and then we have to return the money back to the government. So that's been done with some of the earlier grants, and so the current grants at the moment, off the top of my head, with the restart grant of 1.8 million. Quite a lot of that's been, the uptake's been quite strong in that, so I don't know exactly figures is, but I think a good chunk of that was being claimed by businesses who are currently in the process of this. The AMA grant, the ARG grant, additional restrictions grant, that's, the uptake of that hasn't been as great as we would like it to be, and that's going to be reopened again. And there's been some government updates and advice, so that's, this time round, it's going to be more open to everyone else. So some, in the past, some ones who claim restart grants couldn't claim ARG, but now the government takes a new legislation went through last week, it basically says they can. So when I reopen it, obviously, I want to be as fair as possible to businesses. So although the large businesses are good at claiming the grants, because they've got the infrastructure to do that, the individual businesses, the bookkeepers, taxi drivers, not so good. So we want to make sure they have an opportunity to get the grants. So although we've got a budget of 1.6 and the uptake hasn't been great, because of this new rule that's coming by the government with the ARG, I've imagined a lot of that budget. When I reopen it again, which is planning to do that very soon, I'll be in the week or Monday, I'm expecting quite a large uptake. Quite a large amount of applications.
So we paid out most of the restart grant,
Yes, but not the ARG.
but not the ARG, so we've still got, from the 1.6, we've still got a
So
substantial amount.
We've still got, off the top of my head, I think we've still got about just over £1 million.
Now I'm going to be really bold
Okay.
and ask this question, and it may not go in good taste. If we get left this grant, and we're saying the government's not giving us our money, so they've only given us 71%, can we say to them we're going to keep this?
We can't, because of the same of the law.
Sorry, you have to ask.
No, you can't, because what happens with this grant, at year end, on our accounts, we have to account for this in a certain way. We have to show it in our books and our balance sheet, saying we're agents of the government, this is what we had received, this is what we paid out, and then all of this gets audited. And the external auditor was talking to me about it a few weeks ago, so we had to be so specific. I even had a conversation with one of the government officials responsible for it, and I said, no, this has all got to go back, because I wanted to see if we could offset some of our costs against it, and the answer was resounding no. So your idea is good, but we can't do it.
I may try and lobby for that then. It's not fair if they're not giving us 100% and we're dying as a council. Well, there has to be another way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joshi. Councillor Kaufman.
First of all, thank you very much for the report. It's a very simple thing, but it's a bit misleading. In the introduction on page 8, number 1, the last sentence says, the council has incurred additional expenditure due to COVID-19 situation and has received government grant funding to offset these costs. Well, we haven't really, have we? We've only received some. So it is just a little bit misleading. I know it all unfolds as you read all the different pages, but I think if you have that as an introduction, it's a bit like a conclusion, it could be slightly misleading. So do you think we could change that slightly?
Your point is taken. Obviously, it could be, yeah, obviously I've sustained it later. In hindsight, maybe I should have put it as a mind.
This isn't plain paper.
No, fair.
You know, it's the first thing you see,
Yeah.
and then you think, oh, they've got money back, what are they loaning now? You know, so if that could be changed, that would be really good. Thank you.
Any more questions? Mr. Councillor Boyce.
Sorry, that raises an interesting question. I assume the outturn to quarter 4 will now go into the final accounts and therefore will be audited. How are we handling the auditing of an income which we haven't yet received? It is a risk. So do you audit what cash we've got, or do you audit the whole sum and then later make a prior year adjustment should it not be the case?
That's a good one. So yes, the accounts are due 31st of July, and and once it's audited, the auditors could say you don't qualify for some of this grant, so they can ask us to make a prior adjustment. That's one of the options open to them, and that may well be the case. So they could say, if this was the final figure of 296,100, they could say, you're not going to receive 100,000 of that, or 200, so you need to make adjustments to your accounts. So, yes, Councillor, Boyce, you're right, the auditors can ask us, or, well, not ask us, instruct us to do that.
Sorry, but they do that within the audit process, and they wouldn't actually qualify the accounts because of that.
No, not necessarily, no.
Thank you. Any more questions, Mr. Campbell? Okay, right, so contents and the appendix to that report are to be noted. So we move on to item 8, standards and ethical indicators, Q4 2021. Mr. Gill.
Thank you, Chair. My name is So the report provides information in relation to member complaints, call and ombudsman complaints, freedom of information requests, and anti-social behaviour reports and resolutions. I can report that there's been no complaints against members in the final quarter. Contained within the body of the report is the information on the other complaints and details of FOI freedom responses. And the report itself is explanatory, nothing but questions.
Any questions, Mr. Gill, on the report? No question? Okay, others need to be moved to be noted and the appendix to it. So the final item, which is the local development scheme 2021. Mr. Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. The local development scheme is a statutory document that sets out the council's timetable and programme of works for preparing the local plan. Whilst our currently adopted local plan is not considered to be out of date, the government has announced that all local planning authorities must have an up-to-date local plan by the end of the year 2023. Given that it took around 4 years from start to finish to prepare our currently adopted local plan, which is considered quite quick compared to many other councils, and that there are many factors that could lead to the plan being considered out of date by 2023, such as unmet housing needs arising from other council areas, it is considered prudent to be proactive and to start the review process now. This also reflects the position being taken by other Leicestershire councils. The timetable is set out on pages 36 and 37 of the report pack, and I'll be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Any questions, Mr. Thorpe? Can't see. I can see. Councillor Allen in the back. Come to the microphone, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I certainly welcome this review. I've been looking at the town plan, and I do feel it does need to be particularly where it comes to area that has been reserved for cemeteries. I feel that we need to address our residents' concerns because it seems to be an issue that is a it does simply seem to be resolving. So I do welcome the review, and I would also urge members to come and look at where we do offer cemeteries, because it seems that that particular land that's been reserved is no longer available. Is there any comments on that?
Support.
Yes, the currently adopted local plan does allocate land for the cemetery, and that allocation is on Archery Way in Oadby. What an allocation means is that that land has been identified as somewhere where a cemetery can come forward. If a planning application came in for a cemetery, then it would match planning policy and would likely be approved. What the allocation unfortunately does not do is force the landowner to bring forward a cemetery on that land, and it's up to the landowner as to whether they wish to do so or not. But certainly in terms of reviewing the local plan, cemetery provision is something that we can take into account, along with the other land uses that we need to consider as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey.
Chair, I'm having real difficulty hearing the answers and the questions, but I believe from Councillor Allen's comments, I also do have concerns about policies of this nature and all the paperwork that we do, and particularly with relevance to the cemeteries. Ever since I've been on this council, I have heard that we as an authority have a reserved area for a cemetery in Oadby, and it's taken as read. But the problem is, the landowners, I think, believe that if they hang on long enough, it will be turned into housing or something that's more profitable than the cemetery. So if anybody wants to open a cemetery, and a lot of private organisations do, certainly in London, the Jewish community have private cemeteries, because it's not exclusive, it's not a compulsory service that we have to provide. And in fact, indeed, we haven't got the money for this. But what I really would like to know from the planning department, what do we have to do to convince the owners of the land that we really mean that that's what we as a community want in that area? Because we've got nowhere in 30 years. And I do know from informal contacts that have been made, nobody seems to be interested, and they're amazed that anyone's ever planning to put a cemetery on it. Now, I know this is capitalism at work, but we really have got to do something so that the owners of the land realise that that's what we need as a community in that particular area. So some advice on that, please. While I'm on my feet, Chair, I do thank the officers. I mean, you've got a difficult job providing value, but I really struggled tonight to hear what's going on. Just on the side, that nonsense up. I'm really sorry, please.
Mr. Thorpe, the Councillor Boyce would like to intervene.
Mr. Thorpe and I have discussed this on occasion. Can I, from the council point of view, steer what we would be looking for in the next local plans is a more proactive encouragement for private enterprise to provide cemeteries within the borough. I know we can do that. However, the wording will take some time, and it might need to be conditioned on other actions. But nonetheless, I think we should now take a proactive approach to trying to get these cemetery issues resolved.
Thank you, Councillor Boyce. Any more questions at all on that report? So there is two recommendations here. One, the contents will be noted, and two, that the local development scheme 2021 is set out in Appendix 1 be approved. Can I have that one moved, seconded? All in favour? Any against? Abstentions? Okay, one abstention, Councillor Joseph, that's all carried by one abstention. And that's in the meeting, thank you for attending.